Hello and welcome to the Mike's on Sports Show. I'm your host, Michael McMahon. In today's show, we will be discussing the week of July 14th through July 21st. And today we're talking about the Raiders, the Browns, and the Saints-Ram lawsuit isn't over yet. Are the Lakers still the team in LA? Does the Klaw have something to say about that? And at the end, we will discuss what happened over the weekend. Stay tuned and enjoy the show. Beginning of the show, if you have a dad or have somebody in your life that has said a dad joke or watched a Larry the Cable Guy movie, you probably heard take the Browns to the Super Bowl. And this year, they have a legitimate shot to win the 2020 Super Bowl. If you look at the top of the roster for the Cleveland Browns, you see Baker Mayfield, who threw 63% and had a QBR of 93.7, which was top 20 in the NFL. He's no Patrick Mahomes, but different situations bring different results. Pat Mahomes, who completed 66% of his passes and was second in QBR behind Drew Brees, has Andy Reid, and this year Baker has a new head coach in Freddie Kitchens, who was a positions coach, an intern coordinator, then a head coach. It's a lot of responsibility for a new head coach to take on. And one of those responsibilities of coaching players is controlling their emotions. And with the new addition of Odell Beckham Jr. and his emotions on and off the field might be tougher than expected, all while trying to keep up with other players. But the addition of Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, who they got from Miami last season, will prove to be a big advantage when said and done. Because not only does a defense have to worry about the quarterback and wide receiver position, they also have to worry about the running back position. Because in the backfield, they have Nick Chubb and Duke Johnson, who both averaged 5+ yards per carry last year. This duo will have a great first half until the return of Kareem Hunt. He'll be coming back from his suspension in the first half after 8 games. He'll be back week 10. Game will be against the Bills. This will leave the Browns with a situation of letting Duke Johnson sit around or trade for assets down the road. But the big thing is getting Kareem Hunt back. He's suspended for a domestic violence abuse case early part of last year. He was caught filmed. TMZ actually got the video of him drunkenly pushing a friend into a woman, and then while the woman was down, then kicking her. Obviously, it's a bad look for the NFL, as they have dealt with a lot of domestic violence cases with a lot of their players. But fortunately, Kareem Hunt has bounced back. He has then apologized, though has not apologized to the actual victim, he admitted. But he said he would if he gets the chance to see her again. And Kareem Hunt is going to be a huge advantage for the Browns because last year he almost had as many yards as Nick Chubb, and he only played in 11 games for Kansas City. And then not only do you have all of those weapons coming out of the offense, they drafted Greedy Williams and also Denzel Ward, who had a phenomenal season last year. And then on the defensive line, you have Myles Garrett, who takes 2 blockers to guard him, and we know that's going to give any offense trouble. But going from the elite wide receiver that Odell Beckham Jr. is, and looking at all the elite wide receivers in the league, him, Julio Jones, and most importantly, Antonio Brown, who's had a up and down offseason, I would say. And just looking at Oakland and the thing with Oakland and Browns, 2 teams who underachieved last year but are really looking for redemptions. But looking over to Oakland Raiders, last year they went 4-12, and a lot more people expected more for John Gruden's return. They're probably expecting more from Derek Carr as well, as it wasn't that long ago when he was in the MVP discussion. I believe this will be a do or be let go kind of season for Carr. I'm a big fan of Carr, and hope the best, but hopefully he can start focusing more and getting more than 9 touchdowns this season. I know Marshawn Lynch was there last year, but he wasn't the beast mode from Seattle. They will be looking to change directions at running back, and I'm excited to see what Doug Martin will do now that Marshawn Lynch isn't getting the majority of the carries. We all know Doug Martin from Tampa Bay, and if you drafted Doug Martin on your fantasy team, you know what he does. A phenomenal running back, and will be a huge help to Derek Carr in the backfield as well. They also signed Isaiah Crowell from the Jets, but he injured his Achilles during the summer training, and the timetable for his return is to be announced. And with the explosiveness of a running back needs nowadays, I doubt we'll see Crowell this season. And this leaves an opening for the rookie out of Bama, Josh Jacobs, who had a very impressive year at Bama, and coming from the Nick Saban cloth will be a must-watch. Now, someone else who is a must-watch is Antonio Brown, with Amari Cooper being traded and Jordy Nelson retiring. Antonio Brown is a really perfect timing and hopefully a perfect fit for Oakland, alongside probable second wideout in Tyrell Williams. And we know Tony Toe Tap will be putting on a show, but can Derek Carr and their offensive line hold up enough to get him the ball? There's still some serious questions, but all in all, potentially a 9-7 season if they can win the games they need to win. And their schedule isn't too tough, but Oakland has a lot to prove. Going 5 hours south to La La Land, as we know, looking over to the basketball side, as we know, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George team up on the Los Angeles Clippers, and LeBron got the Lakers to trade for Anthony Davis. When LA is said, are we thinking Lakers first, or is Clippers becoming the team of LA? I personally think Clippers need a little bit more accolades besides 7 seasons with a better record. Albeit a few of those seasons, Lakers only had a 17 and a couple low 20 winning seasons, while Clippers had 6 between 40 and 57 win seasons. Clippers have had solid front office since Clippers took the GM hat away from Doc Rivers, plus adding Jerry West to the executive board member doesn't hurt either. In terms of this season, I believe in the King LeBron James, but both James and Davis missed significant game time. 27 from LeBron James, which was a huge factor in Lakers not making playoffs. And the notable Lonzo Ball missed 35 games as well, which probably didn't help their chances of making it to the playoffs last year. Anthony Davis also missed 26 games, just one shy of LeBron James last season as well. And the Lakers traded 3 valuable young core players, meaning they really have a lack of depth. So Davis or LeBron can't be missing games, especially a third of the season. And I'm not even beginning to believe Boogie is playing 82 games. In fact, last season, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was the only Laker to play 82 games last season. And Jared Dudley, Kyle Kuzma, and Danny Green could possibly be the face of the Lakers next year if health doesn't go the Lakers' way. The Clippers, on the other hand, have one of the best owners and staff top to bottom. They took Golden State to an exciting Game 6 before Kevin Durant got injured, then added Kawhi and Paul George. I think Clippers are going to have a fantastic season and come out of the West to make their first finals appearance in their franchise history, with a legitimate shot at winning it all. But if the Lakers can stay healthy, all of that hype about the Clippers is null and void, and Lakers will go to the finals for the first time since 2010. And which team is the LA team? I don't know, but it seems like a great problem for an LA fan to have. A lesser of a good problem, but probably a bad problem to have, is TMZ reports Kawhi Leonard is being countersued by Nike. Kawhi, who was signed to Nike from 2011 to 2018, he is now with New Balance. He's that guy in New Balance's hallways with the Red Rocket Matt Bonner. And Kawhi basically went from Nike and then went over to New Balance and tried using the logo that Nike claims they originally created. But if we look back to 2011, when Kawhi was in college, he actually sketched a picture of his hand, and which are among the biggest in the league. Then his first initials, K and L, and then a dark 2 from the pointer finger to the top of the thumb. Basically looking at a hand with the outlines of a K, L, and a 2. And Nike removed the hand outline and made the K, the L, and the 2 into what looks to be an actual hand, or what his fans call it, the Klaw. Kawhi has a case here. It's pretty much his logo. He should be able to put it on whatever he wants. But business is business, and I'm sure a lot of paid lawyers built contracts and Kawhi signed them. And I'm sure a lot of people with high car payments wish they could magically get out of it too. But we are stuck to it, and even though Kawhi pretty much designed the logo, he let the rights go and the contract signing. I feel like Kawhi loses this battle, which isn't a big deal, I'm sure. New Balance can make a better logo for him. And more legal business in sports, take it back to football, as we see the New Orleans isn't backing down, suing the NFL over a blown call that what New Orleans fans say kept the Saints from last year's Super Bowl. In a report from the Associated Press of ESPN, a Louisiana judge ruled that a damage lawsuit can continue against the NFL over the early hit that Rams cornerback Nickel Robbie Coleman gave to Saints wide receiver Tommy Lee Lewis at the NFC title game. Not only was it a blatant, dirty helmet-to-helmet hit, it took place seconds before the ball got to the receiver, which should have been ruled pass interference. A defensive pass interference, to be exact, and would have put Saints in position to milk the clock down and kick a field goal to win the game and advance to the Super Bowl. But due to the missed call, it was a 4th down and Saints had to kick a field goal to be up by 3, while giving the Rams a minute and 21 seconds to march down the field and eventually tie the game. Then Rams won the game in overtime, going to the Super Bowl. New Orleans doesn't care about the $15,000 in damages that they're suing for, which will go to charity at the end if they win the money. But they don't care about the money, they care about the truth. And State Civil District Court Judge Nicole Shepard also ruled that Antonio or Tony Lemon, the lawyer on the case, can question the NFL's commissioner, Roger Goodell, and the 3 NFL officials while requesting relevant documentation. Though I agree with New Orleans Saints fans everywhere that it was more than likely the win was in the basket, but where things happen in the NFL. Remember in 2015-2016 season, Blair Walsh, kicker for the Minnesota Vikings, missed the game-winning 27-yard field goal that would have won the Minnesota Vikings their first playoff win since 2009. It was also weird how Blair Walsh played for Seattle the next season. But back to the Saints-Rams, the kicker could have missed, or the stellar Rams defense could have blocked the kick. A lot of factors to go into it, and plus the Saints had the opportunity to win the game in overtime and failed to win in overtime as well. So the excuse at that one moment cost them for the game. We can go back, we can look at the film and look at a bunch of other mistakes that possibly could have got them another score. So I don't think the Saints have the best case, but to add on to that all as well is after the game and the next day, Roger Goodell and the officials said they got the no call wrong. It should have been called a defensive pass interference. So for what reason, I don't know why New Orleans are going to be going so hard for this lawsuit, but I'll keep you guys updated as more news comes. And that was pretty much the big highlights from the week. And if we look over the past Saturday and Sunday, over the weekend, Kyle Korver signs a 1-year deal with the Bucks. And I'm glad to see that he got a job. He's been a guy who's been bouncing around a lot of teams, kind of like a Lou Williams and other guys like that who never really had a home, just kind of a traveling shooter. And he probably can be in the league for however long he wants. His lethalness at the perimeter is a skill every team in the NBA is looking for and will eventually sign. And going into the UFC Fight Night Saturday, the prelims and a couple fights into the main card were all decisions, but they were all good fights and up-and-coming talent to watch. The decision streak was broken with a beautiful hook by Dan the Hangman Hooker KOing the Texas Sweetheart James Vick in the first round. This fight card was also in San Antonio, Texas, so he was an underdog in the fight, but he was a heavy favorite in the crowd, and it was a very disappointing loss to watch. The next fight was just as exciting, but with a little bit more controversy in it, with Greg Hardy fighting Juan Adams. Adams talked a good game leading up to the fight, bringing up the past of ex-Dallas Cowboy defensive end and his domestic violence charges, 2 of them to be exact. And he was convicted, but later charges were expunged from Greg Hardy, that is, his record. But Hardy was out of the NFL, and Dana White basically gave him a third opportunity to prove that he's a good guy and was able to take that chance on him and got him to the UFC. Greg Hardy stayed humbled throughout all the media backlash that's been coming to him over the past months of him signing to the UFC, and he has been making very good on his fights, extending a 2-fight win streak now after he knocks out Juan Adams. He knocks him out in 45 seconds. It was basically Juan Adams shot for a single leg takedown. Greg Hardy sprawled. Juan Adams was attached to his leg, and just bombs came down from Greg Hardy onto Juan Adams' face. Juan Adams just took the punches. I can't even count how many punches he got in his face, but within 45 seconds, the ref called it off, and it was Greg Hardy KO over Juan Adams. The next fight was Walt Harris, and it was just as exciting as he knocks out Oleksiy Oleinik via a flying knee, and it KO'd in 12 seconds, which is the second fastest KO in UFC heavyweight history. And the main event featured a man on a mission in the welterweight division, Rafael Dos Anjos versus the young Leon Edwards out of the United Kingdom. This fight went the distance with Leon Edwards coming out on top. Edwards called out Jorge Masvidal after the fight, and since Dana White said there is no way that Jorge Masvidal is going to fight Conor McGregor does not belong at 170, I agree. He needs to be at 155. And there's a lot of fights for him at 155, and maybe even an eventual return to 145. I'd like to see a Holloway-McGregor 2 fight as well. But that was pretty much all that happened this week, and as we look forward to what's coming up this week, Tuesday you have the Dana White Contender Series on ESPN+, and Saturday is UFC, speak of the devil, UFC 240, Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar, who's a unquestionable future Hall of Famer. It's going to be a good fight for Holloway to add to his resume as being one of the best 145-pound fighters that the UFC has. And then you also have the return of Chris Cyborg after her devastating loss to Amanda Nunes versus a young and huge underdog, Felicia Spencer. I don't see Felicia Spencer putting much of a fight. She only has 7 fights in her professional MMA career. It's going to be nothing for a 20-fight veteran Chris Cyborg to handle. But for other sporting events, there are always baseball games on. Check out the ESPN.com to see the schedule for MLB. Hopefully have some more coverage for MLB fans next week. And then the NBA Summer League is over and teams are making their last pieces fit for next season. And the NFL preseason, it starts in 2 weeks. And join me here on the Mike's On Sports Show, posting a new podcast every Sunday, giving you a recap of this week's biggest sporting news. I'm Michael. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next Sunday.